Hello everyone, welcome to CareersTalk. My name is Priyanka. I am an Agile practitioner and also passionate about servant leadership. In this video today, we'll be talking about Kanban, learning about it, starting from Kanban fundamentals. So it's gonna be a video series where in this first video of this series, will be talking about Kanban fundamentals, and going on in future series, you'll learn about how to build your own Kanban board, how to manage work in progress limits, what are the common Kanban metrics that are being used in industries, what are the right set of projects when we should use Kanban, and last but not the least, we'll learn about Scrumban, which is like a combination of Scrum and Kanban. So moving on with the topic for this video, which is about Kanban fundamentals. So in Kanban fundamentals that we will be learning today, we'll talk about what is a Kanban. So basically talking about Kanban, the Kanban system, Kanban method. Along with that, we will be learning about what are the common practices in Kanban and the 4 key principles in Kanban. Rest of the topics we'll be going to see them in the future videos. What is a Kanban? Kanban is basically a Japanese word which means visual signals or visual cards. So whatever project management tool we use, for example, if we use Jira, so the tickets or the issues that we see on that board is called a Kanban, or we could also say that Kanban is fancy name for the word card. So it's not the entire board that we call as Kanban or Kanban system, it's only that one card that we call as Kanban. Now that we understand what is Kanban, let's try to understand what is a Kanban system. A Kanban system or a Kanban product system is actually referred to as pull system. Now, what is a pull system? As the name suggests, a pull system means we want to pull the work rather than pushing the work in the workflow from to do to in progress to done. We should be having the approach of pulling the work. So it should use that motto of stop starting and start finishing. Try to understand it with the help of this picture that is shown on the slide. So we have a few tickets in to-do column, some in work in progress and some in QA column, and then some in done. So the approach should be to first finish what is there in QA to done, and then whatever is there in work in progress to move it to ready in QA, and then pull more work from to-do section rather than just piling up work in progress in QA section with lots and lots of ticket but not taking it to the finishing end. So let's try to just finish the work that is already in progress, and that's where these work in progress limits really help. We are going to talk about work in progress limits in detail in our future slides, but just to make it a little easier right now, if we define a limit that these are the maximum number of cards or Kanbans that can stay in a particular column, helps us identify some of the bottlenecks, and that's where pull system really helps us. I mean, we are going to explain it in detail in future slides. Just for now, as we are trying to understand the difference between Kanban and a Kanban system, Kanban is just a card and Kanban system is actually a pull system, pulling the work rather than pushing the work in the workflow. So starting from the end is what should be followed. Now that we know what is a pull system, that we are pulling the work and our approach is to first finish the work that is already in progress, let me spend some time understanding how this pull system really helps. This pull system really enables us to work with minimal waste and low inventory. As we all know that this Kanban approach came in 1953 from Toyota industry, which is a manufacturing industry, and we are using our production system to deliver more and more cars. The idea was to deliver those cars with minimal waste, the least possible inventory, and we are able to deliver it to the customer as soon as possible, which is why Kanban is called a pull system. Some of the advantages that you can figure out for pull system is it avoids long queues. So as you see in this picture, in this review column, it's a huge queue, which tells us it's a complete bottleneck. That there is some problem. People are not able to pick up the work in this review. Maybe there are not reviewers available, which is why it's staying there. So we are creating more and more work in the previous section, but then we are not able to review and we are not able to move it to done section. So how would that help? We are ultimately not delivering any value. So if we have those work in progress limits in place, we know there is a lot of queue in review system. In the review column, we will try to first reduce it. We'll try to first clear that bottleneck and then move on and then start moving towards starting more work, right? I hope I made my point clear. The next advantage is supports managing resources. So when we know that where is the bottleneck, we exactly know that where we want to add more resources, and where there are already a lot of resources, we can cut down resources from there. So resources are managed in a better way. It also reduces bottleneck, as we clearly see here from this board in the picture, and eliminates waste. It also eliminates waste in a way that we are focusing at the right place where to remove the bottleneck, and we are working in that direction. In that sense, we are reducing some extra resources which are wasting our time, and we are directly moving those items that are in progress to done status. So these are, I would say, some of the advantages that are in pull system that is making Kanban a more effective method. What is Kanban method? Now that we know what is Kanban, it's a visual representation of work in terms of if you see it on board, it's a card. Kanban system, it's a pull system. So we want to finish the work first and then pull up more work from the to-do queue. Kanban method is much more than a Kanban or a Kanban system. It goes much beyond that. So I would say Kanban method is a modern version of what Toyota created back in 1953. Kanban method was created in 1953 by David Anderson, and he brings an approach of continuous improvement to the organization processes that are already there in the organizations, to how to continuously improve them to make it go just beyond the pull system. So apart from just the pull system, it is a set of certain principles, certain values, some good practices, some strategies and guidelines are also in place along with the pull system. For this reason, I would say we can use this terminology like Toyota created a diamond and David Anderson polished that diamond to add much more value to it with the help of these principles and values. So I would say David Anderson created Kanban in such a way that it is applicable now to many industries and domains, be it software development industry and market and many more. And whenever we use Kanban, it is just for simplicity. The actual meaning behind that is the Kanban method, which includes all these principles, values and practices along with it. Okay, so now that we know that Kanban method contains certain principles, values and strategies, let's try to understand those principles and values first that make this Kanban method very effective and is widely used by many organizations worldwide. And let's try to understand how did it become so popular so quickly. I mean, what was the reason why Kanban became so popular? And the reason for that is its simplicity. It is so simple, which can be described with the help of these principles we are going to talk about next. And the goal of Kanban is not to change organization structure at all. It's not to create any new roles, any new responsibilities, any new positions or titles for that matter. No process change at all. None of that. Its idea is only to visualize the work that's already there, the processes, to visualize them, and with the help of processes that they follow today, and then by applying certain Kanban tools and certain techniques that are being learned here, we will continuously be able to improve that workflow that we are visualizing. And I think without further delay, let's deep dive into these principles to understand what these are all about. So the first principle is start with what you do today. Kanban can be started with whatever you are doing today, whatever flow you are following today, whatever processes you are following today, whatever tools you are using today. All of that, you are not required to change any of it. Just start adopting Kanban without making any radical changes to your workflow. In fact, I would say there is nothing you should change at first. Just map and optimize whatever you do today in your current workflow. And definitely in our future slides, we are going to learn about how to map and really optimize the workflow. But just understand for now, to start the Kanban, there's nothing really that you want to change in your existing processes. And I think these optimizations about workflow are the key to applying Kanban's second principle. Now, how do you optimize your workflow? Obviously, you'll have to improve what you are doing today to optimize it. So Kanban is a lean approach, which means that it is about seeking the best way to deliver any product or services with like minimal waste, as minimum as possible, I would say. We can achieve this by continuously improving on what we are doing, obviously step by step. Kanban helps us to continuously keep an eye on the bottlenecks, to figure out what is the problem area, how to solve it, and proceed with small frequent improvements in those sections to finally get better and better at satisfying our customers and optimizing our workflow. So this is how our second principle is, to continuously improve. So this third principle of Kanban says respect current processes, roles, responsibilities, and positions. So it is actually reinforcing what we said in our first principle, which is start with what you are doing today. Do not change anything in the organization. Rather, shape the Kanban in such a way so that it is able to work for your organization. You will have to just start with what you are doing today. You do not have to train your people on new skills. You do not have to hire new people for a particular position, or like we have in Scrum, we have different roles like Scrum Master, product owners, and developers. For adopting Kanban, we really do not need to have dedicated roles like that. We can start with whatever we are doing today. Because this model in itself, this method in itself is not prescribing any specific rules. And I would say this characteristic of this Kanban method makes it much more easier to adopt it, because people are less fearful of fulfilling their responsibilities. They are not told anything new. They are not told any new job descriptions. They do not have that fear of being fired, but rather they are just improving on the way they are working, and which is helping them to optimize their work and deliver better. Kanban's fourth principle. It is about encouraging leadership behavior from everybody who is working on that project or the product. Now here we are basically talking about self-management, which includes having everybody feeling responsible about the kind of work they are doing, about the results they are generating, and I would say proactively seeking to understand the whole value delivery chain, like every step that is necessary for the value to be delivered to the end customer. In other words, I would say people need to quit being task doers or like focusing on only the task that is assigned to them, but then collaborate more and more, having understanding the entire perspective, having a whole team perspective to together generate that end value. Now that when we are clear about Kanban 4 principles, let's just talk about the key Kanban practices that should be followed whosoever is picking up Kanban to apply at their workplace. So the first one is visualize the workflow. As we are like talking about it from the very beginning, Kanban is all about visualizing the cards, visualizing the work, visualizing the flow of work. It practically means using a Kanban board, because it's a Kanban board is a friendly and an organized way to visualize the kind of work we are doing. But just visualizing the work or the flow, it's not its only benefit. There are many other ways it helps, because it essentially helps us not just to visualize but also to analyze the bottlenecks, like what is the problem area. Like we saw in that previous example, that review column was all filled with the cards, and that was a kind of bottleneck, the blocker, and the team was not able to proceed from there because probably there were no further reviewers to review that work. So now we knew that this is the bottleneck, and we can start figuring out the solutions for that. Maybe hire no reviewers, or maybe help whosoever has done the work to start also reviewing the work. Maybe like the peer reviewing could help out. So we can try figuring out the solutions. So it makes the work explicit to everybody, and everything that we are doing. What is the status of each work item in our project? That is how Kanban, in Kanban, we manage work visually and collaboratively. Once it is visual, everybody is able to see everything. They are able to provide their support to each other. They are able to collaborate better. And by the way, just an information here that Kanban board is now so valuable that nowadays it is pretty much used in every project, not just the uh, not just the agile, but also in traditional waterfall and task management approaches. Everywhere these visualization tools, Kanban board is really being valued, and they are being utilized everywhere now. So that was our first practice, which is visualize the workflow. Now let's talk about the second practice, which is limit work in progress. And I think we have also talked about a bit in previous slides. Limit the work that is there in progress already. Try to uh, start finishing the work first that is already there in progress, and stop starting new work. And this practice is really critical for eliminating queues in the workflow. It does not create that entire queue of that work in a single column. It is what makes us avoid getting out of control by starting more work that we cannot get done, right? So it really helps us avoid that waste. For that is why I would say WIP, or work in progress limits, is very essential or a key term in Kanban. Okay, the third practice is about managing the workflow. So from first and second practice, we have learned that we have to first visualize the work, right? And then in the form of a Kanban board. And then in the second principle, we then understood apply work in progress limits to control the bottlenecks and to identify the problem areas. Now the third practice is to manage that workflow. Because understand, the main goal of Kanban is to continuously deliver to customers, I mean, with minimal views, queues, minimal waste. That is what we want to achieve. That's our end goal. And how can we really do that is by managing the flow, whatever flow we are using. Now that we have visualized it, understood it, how we are working, now the goal is to make it more and more efficient workflow. So efficient workflow would be the one that reduces as much as possible in a cadenced way, I would say, without wasting any resources, with using minimal possible resources, right? That is what is called an efficient workflow. So managing means making it more and more efficient. And I think one example could be managing the workflow is suppose you know that a particular kind of card, Kanban card, or particular kind of work usually takes 4 hours to be done, because you have done similar kind of work in the past and you know it takes almost 4 hours, but now you see that this is staying in the same column for like 2 days and there's nothing being done about it. This might tell you or might indicate you that there is something wrong going on here, and that tells you exactly where you need to manage that workflow to improve it. Maybe allocating more resources, maybe you try to figure out that the person working on it does not have the right kind of skill set to do that kind of functionality. So basically, by figuring that out, that where is the challenge, you will be able to figure out the right problem behind that, right? So this is how managing the workflow really helps. Now probably let's look at Kanban practice number 4, which is have the process policies explicit, which means we could have a policy about dealing with urgent items, could be a critical defect on your website, could be something high priority that comes from the client which needs to be expedited. So these kind of situations, around these kind of scenarios, we can have policies defined for our teams. An example could be the policy about how to deal with an urgent item could say that it should be represented in a red card instead of a yellow card on your Kanban board. So I would say the key here is that Kanban really does not define any rules and policies, but it does say that we must define them and make them explicit and public to everybody working on the product. The whole team must be aware of them so that everyone can understand and be aligned with how they should work within the team. Practice number 5 talk about implement feedback loops. Now from the very beginning when we learned about Kanban method, we are talking that Kanban promotes continuous development or continuous learning. Kanban is all about learning. So how can we learn new things? Only when we get some feedback about what is going wrong. So whosoever implements Kanban ends up learning to be more and more efficient. We can have feedback loops whenever we need to. At some point, just let's stop, inspect, see how we are doing, adapt what is needed to be changed, do it, stop again, introspect if it's still going well, and then continue to try it multiple times to see if your new process or something new that you have changed has started to work for you. And also, I would say how long these feedback loops should stay. Could it be 1 day or 1 week or 1 month? It is entirely depends upon the team. Kanban really does not have any rules about it. It is up to the organization, up to the team who adopts Kanban to define what really works best for them. To quote an example, I would say one of the way to get feedbacks is having daily meetings for 10 minutes or maybe a weekly meeting for 30 minutes to understand the flow in light of short-term goals or your quarterly goals. This really helps you to figure out where are the problems or that we need to really change, adapt, inspect, and then try to improve that new thing into our system. Okay, the last practice that I'm going to talk about today in Kanban is improve collaboratively and evolve experimentally. In other words, it's about the team, learning as a whole, having a shared understanding of the problem, coming up with the solutions together, trying them out, observing the results if they are now looking better or good, and then deciding what to do next. Is the new approach really worked? but everything doing together collaboratively as a team. So this is how, with the help of these 6 practices along with those 4 principles that we have learned earlier, are the basis of a successful application of Kanban. All these principles and practices have covered the fundamentals of Kanban. In our next video, we are going to talk about how to build your own Kanban, and with the following videos, we are going to talk about how to manage WIP limits and what are the key Kanban metrics, how to choose Kanban, when to choose Kanban, and Scrumban. So stay tuned and look for the next videos. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.